is whether Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua are actually going to meet in a ring. And I am more and more hedging towards slim and none. And I think a couple of hours ago, I think Slim just left town.
Yeah, it's amazing what boxing can do to you. Over the last 10 days, I've gone from absolutely being convinced that we're going to get a fight that we've all been salivating over for the last 3 years to now, as I enter the show this evening, to being absolutely convinced that the fight is a million miles away and that we are not going to get it. And we are going to be disappointed after all the chat that we've had for the last 2 to 3 weeks from both camps. And we're going to head into alternate opposition, let's just say, in December. The week for me took a few twists and turns. I'm going to be honest with you, Gareth. At the start of last week, I was just screaming constantly at my phone at Tyson Fury and saying, listen, put your phone down. You don't have to create a false deadline as he did with us last week as we were live at Parker Joyce, and we'll review that fight again a little bit later on in the show. He had an interview with yourself, and of which Derek Chisora gate crashed, and he was talking about deadlines, a false deadline, because his camp, his Queensbury camp, his promoter Frank Warren, George Warren, they were all on the same page as the guys at Matchroom. They all seemed to be singing from the same hymn sheet. It all seemed to be going in the right direction, and there was only Tyson Fury pulling in the other direction with this hypothetical deadline, of which he obviously brought up again on Monday. And when 5 o'clock Monday came round, he made a big song and dance about the papers not being signed, of which sent the boxing fraternity into a little bit of a tiz. And my take on that was, if you walk away from this situation now, after being the man that called out Anthony Joshua for this particular fight, it basically rings with all the fans that you didn't really want it in the first place. But since then, there's been so many little bits to add to the story over the last 7 days that has really taken me all over the place. And now I'm convinced more than ever that 258, the management company of Anthony Joshua, they are the ones that I'm looking at with a stern glare, thinking to myself, what are you playing at, guys? You've got a free swing at a world title. Get your guy over the line, get him back in the ring and get him back in the big time. This is a wonderful opportunity for your guy, but it just seems that that is where the sticking points are now.
Yeah, look, you point to that because Eddie Hearn has clearly come out and said that the commercial arrangements for Anthony Joshua are in the way of it getting over the line. And I say this with full respect to everyone that I've been speaking to off the record, and no one will be quoted here, but multiple sources have told me they were very, very close. Both BT Sport and DAZN were very close. Obviously, they just needed to do the fine print anyway. But to cite commercial opportunities and responsibilities as the reason why they cannot go ahead with a contract in time, the contract that's gone back and forth, I believe, 2 or 3 times between Queensbury and Matchroom, is, let me put it this way, it's like 2 fighters, and it's 30 months, by the way, June 2020 that Tyson Fury announced they were going to have 2 fights. It's 30 months, 28 months since, the talks have literally been going on to get these 2 men in a ring. They have literally, in the last week and a half, be closed up towards each other with their gloves on and backed off facing. That's what's happened. And I actually think that when they looked at the whole thing, lock, stock and barrel, it might be 258 management, it might be Eddie Hearn. I don't think it's Anthony Joshua. I think he wants to fight Tyson Fury, hand on heart here. I think the 2 fighters want to meet in a ring, but I think they weighed it all up, and the advice to Anthony Joshua was, this is a rush. Don't rush to earn 30 million here against Tyson Fury. We can create a longer, more lucrative, I think they did the bank balances, we can create a longer and more lucrative and perhaps safer career, rather than, as the bookmakers would suggest, Anthony Joshua will go 3-0, defeated 3 in a row if he steps into the ring on December the 3rd against Tyson Fury. Can they rescue it for December the 17th? Because the Principality Stadium is still booked for that date. It wouldn't surprise me, Adam, if the next couple of days, if that date was discussed as well, because it's not enough time now for Tyson Fury really to prepare for Anthony Joshua anyway. But what it is, it's a right royal mess, and boxing doesn't look good as a result.
Absolutely not. And it's the fans that are obviously going to now start to lose interest. I say start to lose interest. They've already lost interest. We are losing fans in the thousands because of nonsense like this. business getting in the way of what should be a fantastic fight. I know that this is a business first, and I know that there's got to be the right amount of money on the table to get these guys in the ring, but the right amount of money will be on the table because the fans will come out. They will buy the pay-per-views. They will buy their tickets. They will turn up in their hundreds of thousands in order to see this fight. I just think that not going through with this fight from both camps at this stage, having pushed it so far down the line, nobody comes out of this with any credibility. They both lose face. Boxing loses face. And it's very hard for us to come on here and try and explain to those that aren't necessarily in an understanding of how this crazy game works, of how it is a great sport, because people lose interest. We're telling them this fight's going to happen, this fight's going to happen, and then within 10 days, it's like we've gone in a totally different direction. People are like, I can't be bothered.
I think, Adam, I felt early on that Tyson Fury had weighed up a few options and thought, you know what, why don't I just offer out to Anthony Joshua? I think he was genuine. He probably thought, yeah, I can do it. I can make him fight. But it was a sense of bluff around it as well. It was a bluff that went right, a series of fortuitous events. The guys got around the table. The right people got around the table. Lawyers from both sides were speaking to each other. The broadcasters thought, okay, yeah, if the world's going with this now, let's go with it. But unfortunately, because of the nature of these big fights that do take weeks, sometimes months to make, and sometimes they are only signed in the finality in the last few weeks, I think they ran out of time to do this in the end. But on the other hand,
but if everybody, Gareth, if everybody on both sides really wanted this fight, they could have got this fight.
I agree with
line.
that. I think look, as I said, I'm sticking to that line. My top line is that I think they've decided for Anthony Joshua he's better off to back out facing, and that's what's happened here. The whole story will come out in the end. There'll be recriminations from both sides. The dirty linen will be hung out on the clothesline at some point because these promoters are as much rivals as the boxers. Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn don't get on, even though we did get one major thing, which was Eddie Hearn tweeting, "I agree with Frank." We'll probably never have that tweeted ever again in our lifetimes.